Okay, internet peoplers, so for this Halloween wreath, you're going to need a wreath. I got a wicker one from Big W, some black spray paint, and then random bits and bobs you want to stick on. I got some plastic skulls, black roses, and Halloween lights. You're going to want to hang your wreath up in a nice open, airy area, because otherwise you'll gas yourself with spray paint. Rubber gloves, so you don't get paint all over your hand that you're spraying with. Give it a good shake. And apply a nice even coverage. You want to be spraying about a foot away, otherwise you'll end up with drips. And because it's wicker work, it is going to take quite a bit to spray to make sure that you can get a full coverage so it's not going to have white parts everywhere. You may need to give it an extra coat, turning it upside down at some point, just to get any bits you miss. It will look better for it. Once that's dry, also remember to clear your spray cans by turning them upside down so they don't fill up with paint. Once that's finished and dried, which it's best to give a few hours just to make sure it's properly dried. You're going to want to get rid of this ribbon. I decided to replace it with a little skull and crossbones ribbon. These are the Halloween lights I got, the little pumpkins with white LEDs in them. Some skulls, which I'm going to put on stalks, and black plastic roses, which I'm going to chop up and show you how to get the most out of. You're also going to need some florist wire to attach the lights, and a hot melt glue gun, which is an artist's best friend. Okay, starting off with the wreath and getting this ribbon sorted out. You want a sharp pair of scissors to cut the ribbon off. And get rid of that because you never want it again. You want to get a good length of ribbon so that you've got enough room to tie a knot. I got this ribbon from Lincraft last year, I think. So I've got a stash of it all in a box. Now pass your ribbon through the eyelet. You'll probably have to fold it to get it through the eyelet. Make sure you've got an equal length of ribbon either side, and then tie a simple knot in the end. It doesn't have to be anything fancy because it's quite a thick ribbon it'll hold, and it's not a lot of weight you're putting on it. Next up, I started with the skulls. Now for sticking stalks on these so that they can stand slightly proud of the wreath, you need to drill through the bottom. You want a decent sized drill bit, the same size as what you're drilling through. And be very careful because they're quite slippery and you're liable to stick the drill bit through your hand if you're not careful. Make sure that you test fit things before you start gluing them. So always do a dry fit. Now with the roses, you'll have to cut them down. I've got a good pair of shears, just workshop shears, which will cut through the wire that's also in the center of these. Keep the other end of the stalk because you'll need that to attach your skulls. Now again, dry fitting with these, just testing how it looks. I ended up cutting them down a further segment so there was only one section of leaves attached to each rose, as it was standing out a little too much from the wreath. Now once you've cut through all your roses, collected them all together. You'll also need to cut the end section so that you've got the stalks for your skulls. Remember to watch your fingers. You don't want to chop the end of your fingers off and end up in hospital. And once they're cut down to the length you want for your skulls, which you really only need them to be about 2.5 inches long, which conveniently was the length of the segment with these roses. They've actually got little segment sections on them, quite possibly for this reason. And put the other ones aside because they might come in handy for another project. And get all your skulls together. Now you want to turn on your hot melt glue gun. Wait for that to warm up. And again, watch your fingers because this stuff is really hot. With the nozzle, push it into the hole that you're gluing. The glue will pass through into the center of the skull, but a little of it will linger on the edge of the skull, and then put the stalk through and glue it to the top of the skull, like so. And then I'll just fast. Once that's done, get your wreath and your black roses, and this is a test fitting, so push your roses in until you get an angle and a pattern you like. I decided to go counterclockwise with the roses and then clockwise with the skulls. Because the oppositional, it just looked a bit better. I also had the roses more towards the inside of the wreath and the skulls more towards the outside. Again, don't glue anything down yet, this is just a test fitting, so you can get a rough idea of how it's all going to fit together. And it should look a little something like that. Next, you've got your Halloween lights. You want to unbox them and test the LEDs in them. Once you manage to get them out of the box. You don't really need to undo them yet, but going through and testing them. So unbundle your lights, work out how long they are as to how big or how many times you're going to have to pass around the wreath. These ones were just under 1 meter long, which was perfect to go right the way around the wreath just once, whilst spiraling around it. Next, you'll need to get your wreath and attach the battery box with the screw for the batteries on the outside. You need to cut a couple of lengths of wire. You want a decent sort of length because it's going to have to pass through the wickerwork and then come around the battery box and be nice and tight. Makes it easy to change the batteries, but it will also hold it quite securely. Then you're going to want to pass your lights around, passing them through each time and wrapping them helixly around the wreath. And at each point that the lights are sat, you'll want to attach with a small amount of wire. It's only got to be about 2 inches long, really. Just enough to pass through pass under one piece of wicker, and then around and tightly bound, and then folded away so you can't really see it. This was dark green. I would have preferred to have used black, but couldn't find any black at the time. And it doesn't have to be really heavy gauge wire either. And once that's done, it should look a little something like this. Switch the lights on. And there you have it. Next up, you're going to want to start gluing down your skulls and roses. The roses are going to be first up. And again, I put those in a counterclockwise position. You want to try to not cover up the lights too much, if they are covered up at all. And like I said, I cut these roses down further so that there was only the one bunch of leaves attached. It just looked better that way. You want to get a good even coverage, good amount of hot melt glue on the end of your rose, and pushing it into the wickerwork will hold it in several positions because the glue will slide up the rose. I ended up putting the roses towards the outside just because it looked better. Or three on the outside and 3 on the inside. Next, gluing down the skulls. You want to watch the hot melt. It will get everywhere and you'll end up with little strings. If you get any on your fingers, don't pull it off straight away. Let it cool, either blow on it, and then once it's cooled down enough that it's like candle wax, then you can peel it off. If you try to pull it off straight away, you'll rip your skin. And it's not really hot enough to cause any burns, but be very careful touching the glue gun itself because that's quite a bit hotter than the glue. And once that's done, it should look a little something like this. Now I'll show you just what it looks like hung up with the lights. If you enjoyed this project or any of the others I've done for Halloween, this and previous, feel free to send me links to your attempts either via Twitter at DarklyDave or via Tumblr with messages, I suppose. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the like button below. I'll also have links to videos down below me here, and there's also links to my Twitter and Tumblr in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!